Hello everyone, I'm once again combining wrap-up and TBR because I don't want to emulate a certain booktuber and be multiple months late on my wrap-up. Hi Alan, are you watching this video? I'm kidding, I enjoy your late wrap-ups. But anyway, let's get into, I'm going to do what I read in the month of March for 2022 and also what I plan to read for April. There's a bunch of series I want to make progress on. Let's get into it. Okay, so March as a reading month was not particularly excellent. I only did give one 5-star on Goodreads, which was like a novella that I read in one sitting. I didn't read any books I disliked, though. Like, everything was good, but I didn't love anything other than a novella. Anyways, my favorite non-novella book of the month was also the first book I read in the month, which is The Hod King by Josiah Bancroft. Books of Babel continue to be pretty excellent. This is my favorite of the three so far. After the first part, I thought it was gonna easily be my favorite so far. It's kind of split into three parts. I really loved part one. It was my favorite part one. I felt like Bancroft's prose had leveled up from already being excellent, and was really enjoying it. Part two was good still, but it kind of would have moved this a little bit below The Armor of the Sphinx, which probably not below Senlin Ascends, but part two might have been my least favorite section of Books of Babel so far, which is to say it was still pretty good. It just had, followed some characters that I wasn't the most interested in, and I didn't find the plot as compelling. But still, if it was a novel on its own, and this was 3 novels, it would have been like a 7 point something out of 10, so still definitely good. And then part 3 I thought was easily the best section of any Babel novel by a large margin, and it moved it despite the slightly weaker middle part, which I know a lot of people love the winter part, which is why it's kind of funny. Everyone on my Goodreads friends list has given this 5 stars. With like 23 people or something, it has a 5-star average rating, and now I didn't give it 5 stars. But the ending was fantastic. I loved the entire third half. It was by far the most emotionally evocative finale of a Senlin book, and is my favorite stretch of Senlin. I have an idea of what character we're following for the start of Fall of Babel, and I know a lot of people don't like that character, but I'm honestly really curious to know what's going on with that character. So I do think I will like the start of Fall of Babel, but I know it's obviously it's one of the most divisive books that I know of, but I'll get to that later. Anyways, Hod King, if you want to know, I gave it an 8.4 out of 10. I thought it was really excellent, really enjoyed it, continues to be extremely solid. I don't think any of the books have truly what I would call a weakness, except maybe action, which is something that slightly concerns me about Fall of Babel. I don't think Josiah Bancroft's action is particularly compelling. It tends to be very blow by blow. Some authors can magically get away with being a little blow by blow, but I think most of the best action writers give you just enough to paint a picture in your mind, and then actually have the action contribute other things to the story. But it doesn't have a lot of action, so that doesn't matter as much. And then it's extraordinarily solid in terms of plotting and characters, and then I love the setting, and the prose is exquisite. Anyways, after that, I participated in a read-along on just with some friends on Discord, and read A Memory Called Empire, which this was a rough start for me. This was actually a really rough start, but it did get me in the end. This is not going to be one of my favorite books. I have heard book 2 is better. I might read A Desolation Called Peace in April. I don't own A Desolation Called Peace. I think I'm going to go to a bookstore, and if it has Desolation Called Peace, I'll pick it up and I'll read it in April. But the middle, somewhat weirdly, the middle of this book was my favorite section of the book. This is a space opera that's kind of about an emissary from a really small kind of state, faction, empire, whatever you want to call it, going to be an ambassador in like the capital of a really big empire. It's the empire of the name of the series that I'm not even going to try and pronounce. Based on that, I will butcher it. It's got like a lot of political scheming. It's got weird names that actually messed me up more than I expected to. I did not realize until, like, the names, they're all a number and an object, which I did not realize how much for remembering characters. Having names that I associate with a specific gender would help me remember names, but these have none of that at all. Like, I have no idea if is Six Lamp like more likely to be a male name or a female name. Obviously those are just social constructs, so it's like, anyways, but it's a social construct that I'm very familiar with. And it's weird because there are lots of fantasy names that aren't names on Earth, and yet I didn't have this trouble. Anyways, the naming scheme was weird. Had focus on poetry, political scheming. I'm not going to say it was like the best political scheming I've read, but it had some pretty good political scheming. Ultimately, I didn't completely connect to the characters. I thought the characters were fine, but I struggled I connected to them very slowly. I did end up liking them by the end, and especially I liked the middle quite a lot. And then the end, I thought like the last third was still good. Wasn't like the most exciting or emotional last third ever, but it was good. So I believe I gave this 3 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 6.7. I think Arcady Martine's writing is actually like, it's very good. It's very much like in between what you would expect from a more like very straightforward writer and a more elaborate writer, and it manages to be, I think it is very effective. And overall, like, I think I thought the concept for this was really, really interesting, but I just failed to completely connect to the characters, even though like the writing and theme and world building was really cool. I kind of want to just continue because of how good of a title I think A Desolation Called Peace is, but we'll see. And after this, I read the E-Arc of All the Seas of the World by Guy Gavriel Kay, which wasn't bad. In fact, I would say it was good, but I found it extremely disappointing. Probably because of how high my expectations are, because Guy Gavriel Kay's, I mean, at this point, he's definitely like top 5 favorite author. He basically, for his historical stuff, like my least favorite of his historical books is, I guess, Sailing to Sarantium, but that's half a book. And if it was one book together, it'd be like one of my all-time favorites. So I guess like A Song for Airborne, which I have a review for, it's a very positive review. This, like, from a craft perspective, was still very good. I just, past the first half, thought the story kind of fizzled out. So, you know, I don't want to say I didn't like this, because, I mean, that would not be true. It did a lot of really good stuff. I mean, it had moments that I read, and I was like, that was fantastic. 30% of this book, I would have guessed I'd given it 9 out of 10. But it just fizzled out to a degree that I can't forgive, so it's comfortably my least favorite Guy Gavriel Kay book, which is unfortunate, as it is a new release. But there is a huge asterisk next to that, and that I never should have read that book without reading Children of Earth and Sky and A Brightness Long Ago. That was a mistake. Those are important for that book. I know, because I looked at the Drumatis Personae after running into some stuff that I suspected was related. So I still gave it 7.5 out of 10. It had a ton of really good stuff. But, you know, Guy Gavriel Kay historical books are kind of up there with, like, you know, Stormlight books or Fitz trilogy books or, you know, New Dresden books at this point, where my expectations for them are, or Sun Eater books, are, like, really, really high. So I found a 7.5 to be pretty disappointing. I'll be going back and doing The Last Light of the Sun, which I forgot to grab for my stack of TBR right next to me. But I can just do now and then edit out. So 7.5 out of 10. It was good. Don't start Guy Gavriel Kay here under any circumstances. And then I read my favorite book that I read this month, which was a novella. I also don't have a physical copy for it. It was Queen Amid Ashes, which is a Sun Eater novella that takes place after Howling Dark. I would highly recommend, don't read it before Howling Dark. Probably is better to read it after Howling Dark, although for a reason that some of you might know. It's kind of funny to read it after Kingdoms of Death, because Hadrian covers a lot of time throughout his life. It's one of the reasons I love his character so much, like the way he ages, and, the difference going back to, I won't say how old he is in Kingdoms of Death or Queen Amid Ashes, but he's much older in Kingdoms of Death than he is in Queen Amid Ashes, and it was kind of interesting going back to a younger Hadrian, and just the entire story was fantastic. Hadrian is one of my favorite characters. It was written amazingly. Like, I read this after All the Seas of the World, which I think I found, I did not find myself like noticing how good GGK's prose was in All the Seas of the World as his other books, but like I read Queen of Ashes and I was like, okay, I think the writing in this like is better. And then the book I read after is also someone who is supposed to have very good prose, and I was like, this writing in this is not as good in my opinion. Anyway, so this was excellent, like really excellent. Unlike The Lesser Devil, which I like clearly less than the other Sun Eater novels, I like Queen Amid Ashes basically as much as I like as the full Sun Eater novels. It's like much shorter. So I gave it 9.2 out of 10. Yeah, it's like, which I think is the same score I gave Howling Dark, which, hey, I got hardcovers for them, except Empire of Silence, because the Empire of Silence hardcover is being very slow to get here. But I did order one, and I got the others, and they're signed. This is the closest you're ever going to get to me as a book haul, is me mentioning that I got new books at this moment right here. So for those who like book hauls, this is the closest you're ever going to get, because I don't watch book hauls, so I don't make them. Anyways, after that, I continued with a book that I had as a 5-star prediction, and as you can tell by at the start of this, when I said I have no 5-star books other than a novella, that 5-star prediction didn't happen, and it was To Green Angel Tower, the single longest book that I have ever read, and it was pretty good. I mostly enjoyed it. There were parts I didn't enjoy. It felt like it has a lot of conflict in the last 2 Tad Williams books. I think come down to Tad subplotting. A lot of them are important to the main plot for reasons that you only find out later. A lot of them are not, and are just one-offs. So I imagine if I was in love with his cast of characters and the way he subplots, it would be completely compelling throughout. His subplots are hit and miss for me. Some of them were incredible. There's one with something called Gantz. It was excellent. Some of the subplots I found boring. I was reading them, and my reaction was, I want to be not reading this right now. So, it is barely my least favorite of the 3 Memory Thorn books, which might get people to really yell at me, because that is a really hot take. It does seem to be most people's favorite pretty comfortably. It's very close with me with Stone of Farewell, and then Dragonbone Chair is comfortably my favorite of the 3. This is not in contention for one of my favorite series. I think it's a good series. It definitely did a lot to kind of bridge the genre from Lord of the Rings to get to really influence people like George, like Patrick Rothfuss. I like, if it's a bridge between Lord of the Rings and A Song of Ice and Fire, I'm really glad it's there. I like Lord of the Rings a lot more. I like Song of Ice and Fire a lot more. I think Tad's a really good writer. I don't click with his prose as much as some people do. I will say there were some aspects that I kind of found annoying that I got used to into Green Angel Tower. I don't know if that was in my head or now if I... in Dragonbone Chair and Stone of Farewell, when I was reading them, I kept getting annoyed by placements of adverbs. I kept reading an adverb and it would take me out of a sentence. And I got used to that stopped happening for basically all of To Green Angel Tower. I don't think it's actually... I think it's a me thing. I think it's something that changed inside my head. But it wasn't affecting my enjoyment that much. The adverb thing, I didn't really care about it that much. It really, what this series kind of being middle of the pack for me, and not an all-time favorite, and not one that I still like it though, is basically, I think, basically every character in this book is good. Like, is a well-written character. I don't think there's really any character that's, like, one-dimensional or just there to move the plot. They all have got their own thing going on. They're all distinctive. I can tell who is who for everyone. The list of characters who I would describe as, like, good characters is really, really long. The problem is I don't love any of them. Like, any of them. Even my favorite character by far from the Dragonbone Chair, I didn't enjoy as much here just because I feel he felt to be one of the more static characters. And even though he was really distinctive, and actually some things, he's a character who normally when we see him talking, he's talking in his second language. And like some of the ways he's written, like at first you kind of think he has like weird mannerisms. But then when you're in a perspective where you're seeing him talk in his main language and Tad just, translates it and puts it in italic, he talks normally. And like, I think it's a really good example of writing someone who's talking in their second language. He just felt for this book like he was more important for other people's development. The protagonist is Simon, who is the stable boy, who's an idiot, which I'm totally fine with. I just don't find his arc that interesting. I don't not enjoy the Simon chapters. I just find him kind of basic. I'm in my head, I keep comparing him with like all my other favorite fantasy protagonists. And if you look at my favorite series, a lot of people like side characters more than protagonists. If something is going to be one of my favorite series, I probably need to really love the protagonist. And I just don't love Simon. I think Simon is well written. I think he's a realistic look at someone in that situation. I just don't see him being at all in contention for one of the best characters or like one of my favorite characters. Anyways, so all that being said, I also want to mention the world building for this trilogy is actually really impressive. It's a combination of like classic fantasy and the crazy stuff that comes from Tad's brain. And I like both of those things, but I gave this 7.3 out of 10, which is the same score I gave Stone of Farewell, which is disappointing considering this was one of my 5-star predictions. This was one of the books I had the highest expectations for at the start of the year. This is much lower than I was expecting to be giving it. I would have bet on this being a 5-star book. I mean, I did. Anyways, also, it was more than 50% of the words I read this book. I'm going to put it up now. Here's the percentage of the words I read in the books. That's right. To Grand Angel Tower has been longer than all these other books combined. Just get that in your head for a second. Anyways, so it took 16 days to read. So it took half the month. Of these 5 books, it was half to Grand Angel Tower and then half the rest of the books combined. Anyways, so that is it for what I read. So, what am I going to read next month? Well, first there's going to be a hybrid. Because I actually read most of Fire and Blood in March. And if you follow me on Goodreads, you know I have finished Fire and Blood. Fire and Blood I think is very good. I'm going to talk about it in my April wrap-up. But I read most of it in March. I think I was on like page 500 and something. So yeah, I read most of it in March, but I did finish it in April. So it is technically the first part of my April TBR. And then the first book I have started in April is... I'm not actually this far in the entire thing. This is formatted really weirdly, where they have these in the wrong order. So for those who are about to start Book of the South, I have been told this, and it does seem to make sense. You're actually supposed to read Silver Spike after The White Rose, which if you look on Goodreads, it says Silver Spike is like book 3.5, which doesn't make sense. It should just be book 4, because it's a full-size book. It's as long as all the other books. It just doesn't, like... And it follows the same characters except for the protagonist. Like, it just doesn't follow Croker. But, like, a Wheel of Time book that doesn't have much Rand is still a Wheel of Time book. Or, Malazan books don't even have a protagonist. Or, like, a Stormlight book that that didn't focus on Kaladin would still be a Stormlight book. So, yeah. And it follows, like, directly after The White Rose and before the others. And it seems to have some really important stuff. Anyways, so I'm reading Silver Spike. I'm going to read Silver Spike's story. I'm about halfway through, I think. Going to read some of this after I finish filming this video. And then I will be, I believe, starting 2 books. I will be once again doing the thing where I have a primary book and a book on the side. Primary book that I can take with me, and a book on the side that is like a nice addition that I don't want to take with me. And the primary book I will be reading is The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. I will be finally finishing this series. It has been a series I'm enjoying quite a lot, and hopefully this is a finale that I enjoy quite a lot. I will say I've heard a lot of people not like what character this goes to. I was waiting to get more from that character in The Hod King. Like, they left in a really weird spot. Anyways, super divisive book. Kind of excited to read it, because I want to see where I line on that. So, there's probably gonna be a series review for Books of Babel. Probably gonna do a series review for Memory, Sword, and Thorn. I don't know. How much more do I really have to say other than what I said in this wrap-up? Might just be saying the same thing, but longer. So, anyways, I don't know. I don't know how many... I probably do have more thoughts. I don't know if you guys want a somewhat, like, not enthusiastic nor hate review of Memory, Sword, and Thorn. If you want, I can give you that. Let me know. I'm happy either way. I probably will review this series, and so there might be a rant, or all the people who dislike it are wrong. Anyways, I will, at the same time, be reading Royal Assassin. Oh yes, Royal Assassin. I'm so excited to reread this book. This was the first time I read Farseer. By far, my favorite of the 3. And Farseer has aged really, really well. I'm so damn excited to read this book. And also, it gets me closer to rereading the rest of Realm of the Elderlings. I know I should be rereading Lord of Chaos. And I want to reread Lord of Chaos. Lord of Chaos is just going to take me a lot longer to reread. I really hope to get to eventually. I want to do more rereads in the second half of this year. We'll see. But anyways, Royal Assassin is happening for sure. After that, I'll probably read The Last Light of the Sun. One Guy Gavriel K book a month. This is a book I hear almost nothing about. I think it's Viking based. I've never seen someone say this is their favorite Guy Gavriel K book. And now I actually have a frame of reference on what a bad Guy Gavriel K book is. So we'll see how much I enjoy Last Light of the Sun. And finally, I will be reading The Obelisk Gate, I hope, by N.K. Jemisin, which I love the 5th season. Most people seem to like the 5th season the most, but frankly, a book could be a good bit worse than the 5th season and still be pretty damn good. This is telling an extremely unique tale. I really like a lot of characters. The world is fascinating, and just bold choices are being made. And if I get through all these early and I finish this early, I'll probably just go straight into The Stone Sky. But I don't know, I'll play that by ear. Or I might read book 1 of Shadow Campaigns. If that's gonna, if I'm not gonna finish The Stone Sky during April. I don't know when I'm gonna, there's a read-along on Alan's channel. And I don't know when I'm gonna read that, because May I kind of want to do all standalones. We'll see. I'll figure it out. Anyways, that is me standard booktube video. Kind of even had a little bit of a book haul. I got them signed. Alright, ready everyone. For those who like book hauls, this is the closest thing you're going to ever see to a book haul for me. You ready for this? I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm just showing what I got signed. We got Rockio. We got The Sword, Our Orator. The Words of House Marlowe. Good stuff. Good stuff. Got Demon in White. Look at this cover. It's so nice. And we got on Demon in White, we got Always Forward, Always Down, Never Left or Right, signed as well. Let's go. And finally, Kingdoms of Death. We do not have a Sun Eater saying. I have what I think Christopher Rockio was saying while writing this book, which is, I choose violence. For those of you who like book hauls, this is the closest you're ever going to get, because these books are really nice. Anyways, that is the end of what I read in the month of March. I can include book haul in the title now. I'm probably not going to. And also, hopefully, what I plan to read for April. I do want to get caught up on some series so I can kind of feel like I can start new ones. I don't like having as many ongoing series as I have right now. But I am happy that I finished To Green Angel Tower. And also, I might read A Desolation Called Peace. I don't know. I'm playing it by ear. I might just abandon the read along. Who knows? Or I might read it. I might look at that cover and be like, I gotta read this. Title's really nice too. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.